remoto non sempre si riesce, diciamo, a comprendere nel virtuale la tempistica esatta. Intanto io vorrei ringraziarvi di essere ancora qui, credo sia il 10° appuntamento. Andando a vedere come sono andate le puntate, i momenti precedenti, abbiamo sempre avuto un ottimo successo di pubblico, anche crescendo sia nei nostri appuntamenti italiani che nei nostri appuntamenti statunitensi. Oggi ce n'è uno molto particolare perché parliamo di un settore dello spazio in piena evoluzione, è quello che si chiama lo spazio commerciale, che proprio in questi giorni, tra qualche giorno fa e domenica prossima, farà dei test importanti, ma per presentare il protagonista di oggi non mi resta che lasciare la parola alla nostra ospite NYSE, vice addetta culturale dell'agenzia dell'ambasciata statunitense in Italia, della missione diplomatica statunitense in Italia. NYSE, buon pomeriggio, a te la parola.
Okay, grazie Francesco. We'll have our program in English today as promised, and I just wanted to say thanks to everyone for joining us once again. The U.S. Embassy is so happy to continue collaborating with the Italian Space Agency. Thank you again, Francesco. This series, From Home to Space, has really built a community of people who are interested in innovation and technology and, of course, space. Before I introduce today's speaker, I want to give a shout out to a couple of people who've been part of our community and really helping us in this field. One is Fabiana Milza. She's an aerospace engineer and a member of Women in Aerospace, and she's also one of the winners of the NASA Space Apps Challenge. So hi, Fabiana. Hope you're out there today. And also to Federica Signoretti. She's a medical doctor and also one of our colleagues at the U.S. Embassy Office of Environment, Science, Technology, and Health. And we work together with her on a lot of programs like this. So hi, Federica. Thank you for joining us today. And now I would like to introduce our special guest speaker, Enrico Palermo. He's the Chief Operating Officer at Virgin Galactic. As the first employee of the Spaceship Company, TSC, Virgin Galactic's aerospace development organization, Enrico led TSC's establishment from a business plan concept to a thriving, vertically integrated aerospace operation in Mojave, California. The first engineering, manufacturing, and flight test enterprise in Virgin Group. TSC built and continues to test VSS Unity, the first crewed vehicle built for commercial service to put humans into space. As Chief Operating Officer, Enrico leads specific company strategies and initiatives to enhance the operations-intensive business. A little bit about Enrico. He has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering and a bachelor's in science in physics and applied mathematics from the University of Western Australia, followed by studies at the International Space University. Enrico has depth in operations leadership, team culture development, technology transfer, and business planning experience from several industries internationally. So don't forget to log your questions in the chat on YouTube, and at the end, I'll be back to help Enrico answer those questions. Enrico, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, Marlene. Signore e signori, grazie per la vostra partecipazione questo pomeriggio. Grazie alla missione USA e in Italia anche all'ASI per l'invito. Spero che tutti voi siate al sicuro in queste tempi senza precedente. Oggi parlerò in inglese, ma vorrei inviare i miei migliori auguri in italiano ai nostri partner italiani e anche alla mia famiglia in Italia. E ora passo all'inglese. So thank you again for having us today and this great opportunity to join what has been, I think, an incredible program so far. I'm dialing in here from Mojave, California, at our main headquarters for the Spaceship Company, where we design, build, and test spaceships for Virgin Galactic in our main hangar that we affectionately refer to as FAITH. Final assembly, integration, and testing of the sun has just come over the horizon, and I'm really pleased to join you this afternoon. So I'm going to share my slides here. Let's go. So today, I want to talk about the purpose of Virgin Galactic, our technology, the milestones we've achieved recently, as well as a look to the things we'll be doing in the future with our incredible team and incredible capabilities throughout the Virgin Galactic enterprise. At Virgin Galactic, our purpose is together we open space to change the world for good. It's a big, audacious, challenging goal and purpose that permeates our whole organization and drives what we do every day. And I'm pleased to talk you through that purpose and what we're doing. One of the biggest achievements we've had so far, of course, is Virgin Spaceship Unity's first flight to space towards the end of 2018. So here you see a photo from near Apogee, near the top of the profile, looking out across California from the desert. You can see this Sierra Nevada mountains on the right, snow-capped, looking out to the San Francisco Bay Area and then out to the Pacific Ocean. And on this day, Unity was the first commercial space vehicle to put humans into space, designed for regular service. And actually was the first crewed launch from US soil since 2011. And it was a result of many years of dedication and passion and challenging technology development by our team. It was duly recognized by the FAA with the award of commercial astronaut wings to the pilots Mark Forger Stuckey and CJ Sturko. CJ is a former shuttle commander and incredible to have his experience in our astronaut corps. And so they became the next two commercial astronauts to fly aboard a commercial spaceship. We were able to repeat this space flight about 9 weeks later, another incredible flight for our program, when we had the first time a crew member in the cabin of Spaceship 2, and the first time on a commercial spaceship, someone had unbuckled and really started to test the experience that our customers around the world, including our customers in Italy, will one day have aboard Spaceship 2. And there you see Beth Moses, our chief astronaut instructor, and that was her first reaction when she looked outside the window for the first time, having completed the boost, the rocket-powered trajectory of the flight. So I'm going to share a quick video of this flight. It'll walk you through the flight profile and hopefully give you a good appreciation of the flight experience aboard Spaceship 2, and then I'll walk you through the profile. So that was an incredible day here in Mojave, California, and really put us on a strong track on our march to commercial service and eventually flying many customers from around the world into space. So as you may have picked up in that profile, this is a unique spaceflight system. We have a spaceship and a mothership and I'll walk you briefly through the flight profile you just said. So as an astronaut launching from Spaceport America, and we certainly hope to eventually have other spaceports around the world, and we'll talk about that in a moment, you will go through a few days of training and get prepared for your mission, get fitted out in your flight suit, go through safety training, and really build that camaraderie with your crewmates aboard your mission. On the day of flight, you'll board the vehicle early in the morning and be strapped in, and then the mothership will carry the spaceship up to about 45,000 feet, I think 13 or 14 kilometers, and about a 45-minute climb. At that point, the mothership will complete its duties and will drop the spaceship, and the spaceship will light its rocket motor and accelerate you to space. And during that, about 3 Gs pushing you into your seat, and about a 60-second rocket motor burn, at which you will go faster than 3 times the speed of sound. And so Spaceship 2 today is the only commercial winged vehicle flying today with people on board that is traveling at those speeds. And we're really excited about that for development of future technologies. But you accelerate to Mach 3, and that will give you enough momentum to touch the edge of space, experience a few minutes of microgravity, zero gravity, have spectacular views of the Earth before re-entry in the Earth's atmosphere with our very, very safe and uniquely designed re-entry system, the Feather. And then at that point, the vehicle is a glider and returns to Spaceport America, where you get your commercial astronaut wings. Definitely once in a lifetime opportunity. So let's look a little closer at the vehicle. So this is the first spaceship that will enter service with Virgin Galactic. We call it Virgin Spaceship, VSS Unity. And it's the world's first private crewed spaceship designed for commercial service to now have taken humans into space. The spaceship is designed for a complement of 8, so 2 pilots in the front of the cabin and up to 6 astronauts in the cabin. Very unique aircraft, all 100% carbon fiber construction. So we have, very lightweight structure, which allows us to maximize, what we can take to space for this configuration. And it's powered by a very robust yet simple rocket motor in the hybrid rocket motor, a rocket motor that by design is very simple, which means it's very easy to understand the potential hazards with this motor and how to mitigate them. It's one that we can shut down through any portion of the flight and return to base safely. And then, of course, we have the Feather system aboard Spaceship 2, which is a re-entry system. And the analogy is when Spaceship 2 re-enters the Earth's atmosphere, it acts like a badminton shuttlecock with the belly of the spaceship re-entering the atmosphere first. And so we have built Spaceship 2 here in Mojave, and as I'll show you shortly, we've now moved it to its new home in New Mexico. An important powerhouse of the mission, of course, is the mothership, which we call Virgin Mothership Eve. So Eve is a remarkable aircraft in its own rights, and it looks like an aircraft, and that's intentional because we believe ultimately developing technologies that can enable fast transportation around our planet will involve winged architectures. We can integrate winged architectures into existing airspaces, existing airports, and really allow that customer adoption as we develop faster and faster point-to-point travel technologies. But this mothership is very remarkable. It can launch heavy payloads like Spaceship above 50,000 feet, and all composite. This is the largest all composite aircraft entering commercial service today. And it's just something that's incredible, and we see opportunities for this configuration of aircraft to eventually serve other markets and other opportunities. Importantly, as part of our safety architecture, this is a training platform for Spaceship 2. So before our pilots ever fly aboard Spaceship 2, they are able to learn how to fly aboard the mothership. And so the mothership, in a certain configuration where we deploy some speed brakes or spoilers and put the engines at a low throttle, can simulate the glide ratio of Spaceship 2. So the pilots can simulate the re-entry after the feather has retracted and then landing and approach. And so it's a great training platform. Additionally, the air launch architecture, so this ability to carry the spaceship up to about 50,000 feet and release it, is a critical part of the safety architecture for Spaceship 2. The air launch architecture means that for any phase of our flight, aborting a mission is relatively straightforward. The two vehicles can take off together, they can land together if we decide not to release Spaceship 2, We can release Spaceship 2 and not ignite its rocket motor if for one reason we decide that's essential, and the spaceship can glide home. And similarly, throughout the powered flight trajectory, if we want to shut the motor down, we can, and the spaceship will glide home. And through our test program, we've effectively tested all those abort scenarios. So that's our system. So now I want to talk through some real milestones that we've achieved over the last 12 months approximately. This has been a long and challenging development program. We've created great technologies, a great team, great capabilities. And I was fortunate to join, as Marlene said, this project in the very early stages when we had about 10 full-time employees in London in a small office managing a development program here in Mojave, California. But you know, the progress we've made in the last year is really exciting, and is testament to all our team members and contractors that have contributed to this program so far. So approximately a year ago, we moved more formally into Spaceport America. So this is the world's first purpose-built commercial spaceport in the state of New Mexico. It was funded by the New Mexico State Authority, and we are proud to be its anchor tenant. And this is our hangar. We call it the Gateway to Space, and it was designed by Norman Foster and partners, much accomplished architects, done some landmark buildings around the world, and Spaceport America, Gateway to Space, is definitely no exception. And so we started the move in preparation for arrival of the vehicles, which we've made good progress. Fast forward about 4 or 5 months, huge year last year relative to setting up the company for continued development and advancement and really driving commercial revenues. And that was, we took Virgin Galactic in a merger with Social Capital Head of Sophia as the world's first publicly listed human spaceflight company. So we are now listed on the stock exchange, New York Stock Exchange, with the ticker SPCE for space. And that has given us the funding and the means to go do some incredible things. Earlier this year, we relocated Unity. As I said, Unity was built and assembled by a proud team here in Mojave, California. And we had a long duration captive carry flight where the vehicles took off in mated configuration, as you can see here in Mojave, and transitioned to New Mexico. And you can see the spaceport down in the corner there. So that was a great moment for the team after many years of development, and really starts to initialize the operations in New Mexico. In parallel to that, we've continued to build a fleet. We are building a space line, and you cannot really operate a space line efficiently just with one spaceship, and also to serve the incredible demand we see for flights aboard Spaceship 2, both for personal experiences, but also microgravity research and science, which I'll talk about momentarily. So here you see the second spaceship. We are building a fleet, and in January of this year, we announced that this spaceship had reached a critical milestone where we put it on its landing gear for the first time. And why is that critical? It means that at a fundamental level, the main structure of this spaceship is assembled, and we are now progressing into detailed systems installation, ground testing, eventually painting the vehicle, prepping it for flight test, and taking into service. And so, and then also we also announced that the third spaceship is also making tremendous progress, having fabricated about 50% of the parts for the third spaceship. And so that is in the hangar I am talking from today in Mojave, California. And then most recently, we had our first glide flight in New Mexico. So this was the first time a spaceship flew freely with crew on board above Spaceship 2. This was just a glide flight, so we did not light the rocket motor. But it was an incredible opportunity to test our training, both on the ground and in the air. How do we integrate the new spaceship into the new airspace, integrate with the local airports, the local FAA, etc. And it was a great flight test program. And as part of getting us ready for commercial service, we envisaged doing 1 or 2 more glide flights before returning to powered flights and our first space flights in New Mexico. So Spaceport America is operational, and our team couldn't be more proud that we've reached that milestone. So that's a quick summary of our most recent milestones. So I want to talk a little bit now about our customer base. And so we have 600 customers that have signed up from around the world to fly aboard Spaceship 2. These are remarkable individuals, and I think some of them have dialed in today to listen. So definitely Great to connect and say hello to you today. And we couldn't be here without all of your support. Some of our customers signed up many years ago and have been passionate advocates and see themselves as part of this new inflection point in human spaceflight, where we're going to go from, an average of, roughly 10 a year, new humans going into space over 50 to 60 years to, many hundreds and eventually many thousands of us experience spaceflight, not just with Virgin Galactic, with SpaceX and Blue Origin and other entrants in this space. To reflect the diversity, we have the 600 astronauts come from 60 countries on 6 continents, very diverse group. Proud to say we do have future astronauts from Italia. I think it's 4, and it's 50% female, 50% male, and we love that diversity we have in the Italian customer base. So as we think about this customer base, it's clear, and it's been a long-term part of the vision for Richard Branson to develop operations of spaceports around the world. And extending from that, a vision where we might be able to connect these spaceports with high-speed technologies. And you may be aware, we've been in active discussions with the government and Altec and CTL and other partners in Italy about the potential of setting up a Virgin Galactic operation at the airport in Grottaglia in southern Puglia. And we're really encouraged by these discussions. We're in the early days of those discussions, but Italy has an incredible background in space flight, in aerospace development, in supporting space flight, and we'd love to leverage that as our strategy, our growth strategy in the long term, to develop other operating locations around the world. And so we're excited to continue that discussion with our partners in Italy. Additionally, building off that, we were proud last year to announce an agreement with the Italian Air Force for a microgravity science research mission aboard Spaceship 2. And so the Air Force has signed up with Virgin Galactic for a mission that will carry 3 payload specialists and a rack of scientific payloads aboard Spaceship 2. And this is a great partnership. We think it's something we can build on as we progress to the vision of eventual operations, hopefully in Italy, as I discussed. So Spaceship 2 is obviously there's a huge benefit and offering we have to our customers, but we're equally excited about the real science and technology we can develop aboard Spaceship 2, which will be positive for the world. Again, our mission is together we open space to change the world for good. And here is just a sample of the things we can do in microgravity research. And in fact, some of these experiments took place in our first 2 space flights. So our first 2 space flights had payloads aboard from NASA as part of the Flight Opportunities Program. And in that program, we flew many payloads from universities and other institutions here in the US, and we're proud to be doing something similar with the Italian Air Force in the near future. So I want to talk a little bit about the company and where the future is going. So this Virgin Galactic is an enterprise, again, for world's first publicly traded human spaceflight company. And there's 2 really important parts of this business. You have Virgin Galactic, the spaceline, the entity that will operate the mothership and the spaceship, manage the customer travel experience, and is headquartered in New Mexico at Spaceport America. The other part is a vertically integrated design, build, test organization, the Spaceship Company, which I was fortunate to have started from a business plan here in Mojave, California. And really, TSC, or the Spaceship Company, is much like an aerospace contractor. We have all the disciplines required to develop high-performance vehicles like Spaceship 2, and you'll see us doing other things in the future with our talented team and campus and capabilities in Mojave. And I wanted to highlight that because it talks to really one of the key growth areas we see for our business going into the future. Obviously, we are squarely focused on starting commercial service, getting Sir Richard Branson into space, and then eventually servicing our initial 600 customers and the many thousands we expect will fly one day aboard our vehicles. But TSC has the full life cycle of aerospace development expertise, from design, modeling, analysis, manufacturing, being a specialist in composites manufacturing. We assemble and integrate the systems, and then we fly them. And we really want to leverage these technologies to start to look hard at high-speed point-to-point travel, which has been a long-stated vision of Sir Richard when he originally set up Virgin Galactic. And we think there is definitely opportunities to apply technologies, our team, to really transform how we may move around our planet in the future, whether it's at much higher Mach speeds than are possible today. We've been flying roughly at the same speed, since the dawn of sort of commercial aviation. We obviously had a moment there with Concorde, and we're excited about our contribution to see how we can move the needle forward. To really bolster that development, we were pleased a couple of weeks ago to announce an agreement, a Space Act agreement with NASA to advance high Mach technologies. And this, facilitates the development, we think, of sustainable high-speed technologies. We feel it's important to develop technologies that are sustainable for high-speed transport. And we can really leverage our robust platform, advanced technologies, and first-mover advantage. We are the only team in the world today flying crewed vehicles at high Mach speeds, and we want to leverage that. And the initial partnership with NASA will be focused on some of the two most challenging parts of developing high-speed vehicles, both thermal management and propulsion system. And this NASA agreement is further bolstered by the fact last October we signed an agreement with Boeing to also collaborate in this area. And so we have some great partners in the Boeing Horizon X team. So looking to the future, we see giving many thousands and hopefully many more astronauts, commercial astronauts, this view. So this is a remarkable shot at apogee from our second space flight. You can see the Pacific Ocean there. And when you watch the video, the spaceship hangs here, and it's going to just be a majestic moment. So we're very motivated to get that going and look into the future. How do we take this technology and these teams into the future with high-speed transportation? So that's a quick introduction, again, to our purpose, our technology, and where we're taking our team into the future. So thank you for listening, and Marlene, I'll hand back to you for Q&A.
Okay, thank you, Enrico. That was really fascinating. So much innovation, and I like to hear the part about the collaboration too with governments and other public entities. Do you see that as important going forward, or is there more of a competition between the public and government agencies and private enterprises like yours?
That collaboration with government is critical on all levels. The government has a critical role around the world to build the regulatory framework to support development of this new commercial space ecosystem, and equally help with fundamental research and development. And NASA and other institutions around the world, do incredible work there that has enabled a lot of what we're able to do today in the commercial sector. So I definitely see collaboration. You can see a path that access to low Earth orbit is rapidly being commercialized, which allows the space agencies around the world to focus on exploration and science. And so I think that cooperation between the government and the private industry is going to go from strength to strength.
Okay, we have quite a few questions here, so I'll start with those. Let me see. ASI-TV is asking, do you have an idea about the timing to realize the spaceport in Puglia and when it might be operative?
It's a terrific question. As I said up front, it's a vision of Sir Richard to have these spaceports around the world, and we're really encouraged by the partnership with the Italians. We're not publicly stating any timelines right now. We're focused on launching here in the USA, but certainly my hope we can advance those discussions in the coming year and move it forward. We see incredible capabilities in Italy to support a spaceflight operation, particularly with technologies such as mission control support and tracking and telemetry, and potentially even contributions to how we build and operate the spaceships. So we're not talking about a timeline right now. The partnership with the Italian Air Force, I think, strengthens that relationship between Virgin Galactic and Italy, and can really demonstrate that an operation in Puglia would not just be about flying private citizens to space, but also developing critical science and research.
Okay, so we're going to hold you to coming back here when it opens and doing another program for us. Piero Mesidoro asks, hi Enrico, is Virgin Galactic planning to improve the normal Spaceship 2 mission far in space in the next coming years?
So we are still in our active test program, and you know, we obviously have now flown Spaceship 2 to space as recognized by the FAA and NASA here in the US. You know, I will say we still have some testing to do, and that is consistent with what we've been saying. And you know, as you may have seen in our flight test, every flight test we've been flying higher and at higher speeds, and so we're going to continue to explore the flight envelope of Spaceship 2. You know, one of the big improvements or areas ahead of us is starting to really test that customer experience in the cabin. So it was incredible in February last year, we were able to fly Beth Moses to space. What you'll see us doing in some of our upcoming test flights is start to populate the cabin fully. And that's important both for the astronaut experience, but also the science research to understand how fully populated cabin works. So we still have some flight testing ahead of us. In terms of improving the spaceships, one of the things we've focused on here at the Spaceship Company is, you know, now that we have a design that we're proud of and serves the mission, is how do we build these spaceships quicker and faster and ideally at lower cost, but with the same integrity and you know, safety qualifications. So one of the big areas we've been focused on is design for manufacturability and assembly of the next spaceships, and we've been able to take out significant chunks of the time required to assemble the spaceships, and that bodes well to build the block, and also hopefully when we come to build the fleet for an Italian operation, you know, we're able to do that efficiently. And so really, you know, we have testing to do, we're focused on design and manufacture, focused on building an incredible experience for the occupants in the cabin.
Wow, that's a lot of work coming up for your organization. So right now you're talking about going into space in one of these spacecrafts as an experience for people. But at some point, do you think that space and Mars and maybe the moon will become a vacation destination?
I think that's totally possible. You know, I think, you know, there'll be, I think in the near future opportunities for, and it already has happened, right? With Dennis Tito and beyond, we have flown private citizens into space, and they've been to the International Space Stations. I would say in some respect that has started happening already. We're at the very early adopter stage of that market. But I think with several entities providing access to space platforms, I think it's inevitable you see, you know, space stations dedicated to vacationing in space and other opportunities. You know, as an ecosystem of space companies, as we move again from that historical, you know, 10 a year to many, you know, hundreds and eventually more per year, the market opportunities that are going to develop, I don't think we've even thought about all of them, that comes from frequent, safe and reliable, low cost access to space.
Okay, I look forward to that. Fabiana Milza asks, she asks if there are any health restrictions for your customers to fly.
Great question. Generally, the answer is no. Remarkably, you know, we designed Spaceship 2 such that the flight profile was something that most humans could take. There may be a small subset of medical conditions we watch closely, but we're really buoyed by the fact we've flown about 100 our initial, what we call our founder astronauts in a centrifuge. So a centrifuge is, you know, a device that's being used to prepare astronauts for spaceflight that rotates very fast. And on that centrifuge, we can simulate the whole G profile of Spaceship 2, except for the zero gravity portion. And we've flown people from, you know, very young age to people above 90 through our G profile. And the results have been good. People have been able to sustain it. It's definitely an exhilarating ride, but we anticipate, and it's really important to us from an accessibility to opening space, that most can fly in our vehicles. So, you know, maybe in the early days, there may be some medical restrictions, but we don't expect it to be there. And we have a great medical team on board. We also have a great aerospace medical advisory board that consults us on this, but we are, you know, really excited that the vast majority of people will be able to fly aboard Spaceship 2. They have to be 18 per the FAA regulations, but once you're 18, you're enabled to fly.
Well, I would like to meet the 90-year-olds who flew, because I have relatives who are much younger who say, I'm too old to fly to Italy to see you. So that must have been something.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things about a spaceflight is, you know, zero G is really something that can, break down barriers as well. The human body is very different in zero G, and some of the challenges individuals might have on the ground and the normal G might not be there in zero G. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Okay. Fabiana Milza had another question. She said she wants to know if it's possible to visit the Spaceport America in Mojave, California.
Yeah, we generally don't offer tours for the public, but on occasion we have had, we've hosted partners and VIPs. Many of our Italian partners have visited our operation here in Mojave, for example. So we don't offer public tours, but you never say no. There may be opportunities. New Mexico Spaceport Authority does do things in relation to Spaceport America, New Mexico. So definitely, I think, stay in tune with what they're doing. They have events every now and then out at the spaceport. One of the things we're very proud of is our efforts in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math education. We have a non-profit that we call Galactic Unite. It was actually founded by many of our 600 astronauts that have signed up with Virgin Galactic. And the mission there of Galactic Unite is to use space to inspire the next generation. And through several years, we have brought tens of thousands of students through our hangars here in Mojave and New Mexico to really spark that innovation, spark them pursuing careers and educations in STEM. And we've also entered classrooms around the world. We've touched tens of thousands of students around the world through similar venues like this, Space Chats, or we call them Space Chats, but Google Hangouts or YouTube, where we enter the classroom, maybe show a video, but really let the students from, kindergarten age to all the way through high school ask questions and understand the opportunities. So definitely there's opportunities in relation to STEM to get involved and learn more about our business.
Okay. Gennaro Russo, he said apologies, he might have missed something, but he wanted you to speak a little bit more on what is Virgin Galactic planning after Spaceship 2?
Yeah, great question. So we have a lot to do to get Spaceship 2 into commercial service. So appropriately, we are laser focused on that. Sort of the next stage, as I said, is we need to build a fleet of these spaceships. We think, there's a universal fascination with space. As I said, we signed up many of our 600 customers, the vast majority, before we ever flew Spaceship 2 to space. And we have a new program called the Small Step Program that's developing the next funnel of astronauts, commercial astronauts that will sign up with us. And so we have a lot of work to do to service that demand. From there, the next growth strategy is actually, international expansion. And, as I said, I'd love for Italy to be part of that. We envisage having an operating center in Europe, probably something in Asia, and then thinking about how we connect those in the longer term. And so that's sort of the next growth strategy, as well as growing the suborbital research market. And so that'll be the next area. And then really what comes next is our long-term development efforts on high-speed point-to-point transportation, really radically changing how we can move around our planet safely, fastly, and sustainably. In parallel, you may see the Spaceship Company do other things. We are an organization that really has the breadth and depth of a major aerospace contractor, but we do it, nimbly. We do it with a passenger team and a real entrepreneurial spirit. So don't be surprised if you see TSC develop some complementary technologies as well in our future. Beyond that, we'll see. We are the world's first publicly traded human spaceflight company. Space is at our core, and you may see us do other things as well.
Okay. We were just wondering too about your commitment, or the company's commitment, to the communities where you work, where you're developing these products. What's your commitment to Mojave, California, and New Mexico?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are very lucky to be supported by the communities in Mojave and New Mexico. One big effort I've already mentioned is STEM education, and really driving that in our local communities through space chats, through tours, through rocket competitions. At New Mexico, at Spaceport America, we're proud to participate in the big annual international rocket competition they have out there. So definitely a parcel of STEM education. New Mexico Spaceport Authority developed the spaceport for economic development. We've moved well over 150 families to New Mexico or hired locally in New Mexico. So we've returned a lot of job creation, which obviously generates tax revenues and other things for the local communities in Las Cruces and surrounding towns. We obviously pay to use the spaceport as a tenant, which is returning money to the state. So that we definitely see Spaceport America enabling that vision New Mexico had for economic development. We also are returning opportunities for their research institutions to participate in our science missions. Here in Mojave, we are part of a really unique infrastructure and ecosystem at Mojave Air and Spaceport, which is really extending a proud legacy of aerospace development. And the skies here above Mojave, we've seen to sing such the first supersonic flight with the Bell X-1. The SR-71 was developed out here, so we see extending the community's legacy. And then some of our team members, including me, over the years have supported the Mojave community. How do we advance the state of the Mojave community? I served in a non-profit for a entity called the Mojave Foundation, looking at improving life and conditions here in Mojave. And so we have various ways we're supporting our communities. We've also been, we are one of the biggest employers here in the Antelope Valley in Mojave, California, and so that has a lot of economic benefit for the area as well.
Okay, I have another question from ASI TV. When Virgin started its job, we understood its objective was only the commercial space flight. Your presentation showed us a scenario really wider. What's changed?
I wouldn't say anything's necessarily changed. Obviously our core mission was opening space and providing accessibility space for everyone. That includes the government. We see science research for the government as an enabler. All space technologies in some respect or another have opportunities for both commercial and governmental entities. And so we're proud that we're going to have government customers. Who knows, we might use Spaceship 2 to train pilot astronauts or astronauts for agencies around the world as well. So I don't necessarily if anything's changed. I think it's just, it was always envisaged that the government will be a critical partner. And the other part is that, TSC and the Spaceship Company, we developed a remarkable organization here that can do many things. And naturally, we want to leverage, over $1 billion in investment, commercial investment that has developed these two great companies, and looking at other customers, including the government, to leverage that support.
Okay, I have a couple more questions here. Claudio Voto asks, where do you physically assemble the Spaceship Unity? Is that in Mojave?
We do, yeah. So we have a big campus here in Mojave, over 200,000 square feet of facilities. We have a main fabrication facility down the road, and I'm here in the hangar, which we call Faith, where we assemble the vehicles. So what's unique is, I believe Mojave and the Spaceship Company and Virgin Galactic, we're the only place in the world where all aspects of designing, building, assembling, ground testing, and then flight testing and actually flying to space all happen in one location. And so we're really proud of that integrated structure here. And so we do that whole value chain of delivering spaceships here in Mojave.
Okay. Gennaro Russo asks, you're talking about 600 plus booked tickets to the Carmen line. Already in mid-2013, Virgin Galactica had the same number of reservations. So how does it look for this market of suborbital flight?
Yeah, so that's a great observation and great question. We have had many of these customers signed up for several years. We decided a few years ago just to pause sales, so we haven't been actively looking to grow that customer base until very recently, and I'll talk about that in a moment. That's because we have a good couple of years of backlog, if not more, to fly those 600 astronauts. And so really, as we enter commercial service, you'll see us ramp up growing that base. But we have had many thousands of registered since we flew Spaceship 2 to space in December 2018. We have many thousands of people around the world that have registered their interest to fly aboard Spaceship 2 and eventually place money for a deposit on a ticket. And earlier this year, in around February, we launched what we call the Small Step program, where we sort of out of those thousands that have expressed interest, you have the opportunity for a small nominal deposit to really get yourself in the line for when we formally reopen those ticket sales. And so we expect once we do that, the 600 number will grow quite rapidly. You know, there is definitely a universal fascination with spaceflight. It captures the imagination of all, and it's a dream that many around the world have had, you know, since birth, myself included, to have that opportunity to fly to space.
Have you been to space?
I have not. I definitely put my hand up for one of the test subjects, as does the rest of our team. We are a very passionate team about what we're doing.
So what kind of a person, these 600 people? I mean, I read Tom Cruise wants to go to space and film on the International Space Station. So what kind of a person is interested in raising their hand and saying, I want to be one of the next 600. I want to go do one of these suborbital space flights?
Yeah, it's a great question, Marlene. You know, there's not one typical stereotype for our customer base. We have customers that, you know, believe they're supporting, you know, the development of this new industry. So I would say there's the space enthusiast customers that want to do this. There are lovers of the Richard Branson and the Virgin brand, sorry, that have signed up and you know, believe in the ethos of Virgin Group. We have, you know, space is sort of the ultimate experience in many respects. So we have individuals that are very satisfied by doing these unique and extraordinary experiences. You know, we have diversity in the net worth of the individuals that are flying. You know, they're not all high ultra net worth individuals. Some have put their, you know, all of them have put their hard-earned money to be able to fly with us, and we respect that. So I wouldn't say there's you know, a set type. We have a lot of pilots in our initial customer set. And you know, remarkable individuals that you know, have done amazing things in their own rights, whether it's starting their own businesses, you know, having climbed all the, you know, the top peaks around the world, you know, real diverse sets. I can't really define what one would look like. As there's 60 countries from around the world, and just, you know, passionate about what we're doing.
And then there's that 90-year-old that I can't stop thinking about.
Yep.
We always like to ask our guests a little bit about how good of an investment is this for your future, if this is something that you want to look at for a career.
Yeah, I think it's an incredible time to be entering the space industry. You know, the world, particularly the US and Europe and China and Russia have incredible backgrounds of, you know, many years of space development. But we're, as I said before, we're really at this inflection point in where you're seeing different commercial companies around the world providing capability that was once sort of the preserve of the superpowers of the world. And so that is a radical shift in the cost structure, I think in the frequency of access to space. And I'd say there's incredible opportunities, you know, there's including Virgin Galactic. Some of these companies will be huge in the future and be a huge part of the economies of the world. And it's not just about human space flight. You know, there's, you know, continuing great work in satellite technologies, particularly smaller satellites, constellations of satellites, you know, on orbit manufacturing, you know, access to the moon and utilization of resources on the moon. You know, there's endless opportunities of things we haven't thought about yet that will come from this renaissance, coming from, and we're in it from commercial space. And so what I offer is you know, there's not one set model to get in this industry. You know, this is an industry that requires all disciplines. It's not just engineers and science and technologists. There's lawyers. There's you know, really challenging things around space law. But we're like any business, finance, accounting, all aspects are needed to support this industry. And I think we'll see worldwide the space industry driving a lot of job growth, career growth and opportunity.
And to be working with Virgin Galactica and the space company on these spacecrafts and this new technology, what kind of skills do you recommend that people really try to hone to get there? You know, you talk about working with young people on STEM education. What kinds of things can they look at in their young lives and in their education as they go forward?
A great question. Again, I want to be careful to say there's sort of one size fits all, but I would say, you know, our team here is very inquisitive, very curious around the world around them. They're very passionate about what they do. They have grit and tenacity. You know, space development programs are challenging, and you need that perseverance to see them through. You know, obviously in certain fields, there's deep technical knowledge and study required to be a propulsionist, to be an aerodynamicist, to be a stress analyst. And so there's definitely, you know, those fundamental, you know, skills in math and science are very critical to developing careers in those areas. I think networking, there's some great institutions out there, such as the International Space University, which has an incredible program, but also an incredible network of space professionals around the world that can really provide a door and an entry to this industry. So I think, you know, follow your passions, work hard, be focused on, you know, maybe the skill sets you need to develop, but, you know, be inquisitive, be passionate, know how the world around you works.
And someone wants to know, are there any grants or scholarships or internships that are maybe not exclusively for people in the US?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, definitely. So through Galactic Unite, we do have scholarships. So we've awarded scholarships sort of around the world, UK and US in particular. And it was only a matter of a few days ago we announced some additional scholarships. We do have an intern program. Unfortunately, currently it is for US persons only here in the States because of the ITAR. But, you know, as we consider operations around the world, hopefully that can open up. And so I'd keep an eye on the Virgin Galactic, the Galactic Unite website and the various scholarships there. We do focus a lot on women in engineering in the placement of our scholarships, and we've awarded well over $1 million in scholarships now through Galactic Unite.
Okay, and we have another question. What about the flight test of Launch 1 scheduled for next weekend?
Great question. So I'll do a bit of introduction and then answer that. So we have there is another Virgin spaceship company which is called Virgin Orbit, and a few years ago we actually spun Virgin Orbit out of the Virgin Galactic operation and TSC operation here in Mojave, California. So Virgin Orbit is another, you know, remarkable commercial space launch entity. Their architecture uses a 747 to carry a two-stage rocket to altitude. They release that rocket and it will deploy the two stages to put small satellites or micro, you know, pretty good sized satellites actually, into space. And so they've been making great progress on their program. In fact, their launch aircraft, 747 Cosmic Girl, is, you know, maybe a kilometer away from me right now, and they are preparing for their first orbital test flight this weekend. They announced that yesterday, and we're very proud to have helped initiate that program, and are really sending our best regards to the Virgin Orbit team. So stay tuned for more news. This weekend, the vehicle will depart here from Mojave, California, and fly out over the ocean, Pacific Ocean, for that inaugural test flight. But, you know, it's a test flight, and appropriately, you know, that team at Orbit will manage the risks and expectations around that first test flight.
Okay. Oh, that sounds really cool.
Yeah,
and
really.
Claudio Voto said there's a point of your presentation that wasn't clear. You talked point-to-point high-speed connection. How is this possible with the SS Unity?
Yeah, good question. So to clarify, Spaceship 2 is not a vehicle that is designed to go very far point to point. It can do some point to point transportation, but its real mission is to go up, touch the edge of space, re-enter and land safely. However, what we see with Spaceship 2 is technologies, team and capabilities we've developed that can develop other air-breathing winged aircraft that can fly longer distance at high speed. And so Spaceship 2 I see as a stepping stone to future high-speed winged aircraft, in the sense that we have a team that can design, build and test a Mach 3 winged vehicle. We're integrating that into the airspace, and so we are learning a lot of things about that. You know, we're developing, you know, flight crews. We're understanding, you know, with the general public what high G and high Mach flight experience is like, and to date that has really been the preserve of government astronauts. And so there's going to be a huge amount of data generation that comes from Spaceship 2 flights. And so although Spaceship 2 isn't a vehicle that will enable us to cross the Pacific or the Atlantic in a short amount of time, it is building the infrastructure to go do that. And so Spaceship 2 is sort of part one of us developing high-speed vehicles.
Okay, one of my team mentioned that on your website, there's a virtual flying experience. Do you recommend people take that, or is that risky?
No, you should definitely go to our website and check it out. There's no risk with that.
Can you talk a little bit about, I'm unmuted now, right?
You're good.
My computer's telling me I'm muted. Can you talk a little bit about the NASA agreement with COVID?
Oh yeah, great catch by one of the participants. So we are really proud here in the Antelope Valley to have worked with NASA on developing some rapid prototypes and manufacturing for two things. One is a hood, a hood that can be used for COVID patients, and we actually assembled about 500 of those hoods here in a hangar. And those units are in testing at hospitals in our local communities. Again, another way to go back to local communities. And we've also worked on some enclosures that could be used in hospitals around patients and their beds. So we're remarkably proud of that collaboration with NASA. We had NASA engineers and the Spaceship Company engineers come together and put their expertise to work out. We quickly could develop those hoods and those enclosures, which we've now built. We've done, quite a bit for the community with respect to COVID, particularly looking at how in the early phases here in the Antelope Valley, where we're very fortunate that, levels of community spread and infection have not reached obviously the levels we've seen in other areas. But, we've at the right times donated, the medical grade equipment we have, the N95 masks and other things to help prevent escalation. So we will continue to support the community that looks after us, and really proud of that collaboration with NASA.
Great, thank you. So before we close, I wanted to read you a comment that came in, and since your Italian is so good, I could say it in Italian. Mila Gilberta says, grazie per l'ottima discussione. Virgin Galactic and the Spaceship Company stanno rendendo lo spazio più emozionante che mai.
Mille grazie. Felice, grazie.
Well, this was a very, very good presentation, and we really do appreciate you being here. Thank you for this hour of innovation, and really from a very different angle than we've had previously. Francesco, did you want to say a few words? And then I want to make a little announcement.
È stata veramente molto interessante, non nascondo, come i parenti del vostro ospite che lo hanno salutato dalla chat di YouTube. Anch'io sono orgoglioso che un italiano o comunque un discendente del nostro paese si sia fatto strada in un mondo così complicato come lo spazio, anche dall'altra parte dell'oceano. È stata un'esperienza importante perché il mondo sta cambiando, quello dello spazio. La prossima settimana ci sarà il primo lancio commerciale per una crew, per un equipaggio umano. Vuol dire che si sta passando una frontiera. Sarà molto interessante continuarlo a seguire. Lo faremo in queste forme. Quando torneremo alla normalità, anche in altre forme più di contatto, ma insomma che non mancheranno di interessare tutti. Io di questo voglio ringraziare la missione diplomatica statunitense e NYSE in particolare. Grazie ancora e grazie a Mr. Palermo per essere stato nostro ospite.
Grazie Francesco.
Grazie. And if you turn your mic off, Francesco, I can speak. Turn your mic off. Okay. Grazie. So I just wanted to say that next week From Home to Space will be live streamed at a special time so we can all watch NASA launch SpaceX Falcon 9. There hasn't been a launch from US soil in 9 years. And we want to have a program next week. It will be May 27th, Wednesday. It'll be around 9 o'clock in the evening so that we can preview the launch. We're going to have some special guests next week as well. We'll have former US astronaut Anna Fisher. She's known as the first mother in space. And we'll also have the return of Roberto Vittori. He is an Italian astronaut and the space attaché at the Italian Embassy in Washington, D.C. So again, at this link, the program will start around 9:30. We'll send out some confirmation emails to let you all know. And we hope that you'll join us for this special program next week. It will be Wednesday, not on Thursday. So hope you'll all join us again. And thank you so much to everyone. Enrico, Francesco, our special guests who joined us. We're really happy to have you all with us for our From Home to Space program.